This is Sawyer Robertson, and you're listening to the Bearcast on SicEm365.com.
Welcome into the Bearcast on SicEm365, presented by WellMed Medical Management and Barefoot Campus Outfitter. Head on over to Barefoot Campus Outfitter in Waco, or go to the website and use SicEm365 as your code to save 15% off your purchase. Colt, today you and I are doing our premium mailbag like we do every single week. Going to go through a bunch of questions this week. I think we have like 12 or so. So we'll be able to kind of dive in a little bit. Also, be sure to check out, of course, the Kansas State versus Baylor preview coming up on Thursday that Colt and I will do, and our best bets for the week. But for now, it's just the premium mailbag. And Colt, like we always do to start off this show, it's early in the week. Just kind of general thoughts on where things are at right now with Baylor this season, anything that's come to mind early on this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think so Baylor's faced Auburn, faced SMU, faced Arizona State, obviously Oklahoma State. I think SMU is the closest thing that we've seen to a marginal team, like in terms of matchups for Baylor. Like I think Auburn's defense presented a ton of challenges. Obviously, Baylor played well offensively in that game. Auburn's offense really exposed Baylor's in a way that no one else has. I think Baylor's recovered from that to a great degree, specifically in the QB run game, power run game, where they just struggled so much in that particular game. I think you look at Kansas State, and I think they present some of the same challenges that Auburn did, Arizona State did. I just don't think they operate as a whole as those teams did in their particular games. Obviously, we've seen Auburn play A&M and play Oklahoma, who have really good front sevens on defense, and that limited Jackson Arnold and what they're able to do. You wish Baylor had a front seven like that. They could do the same thing. They don't right now, and that's just reality of the landscape of college football. But I really am intrigued by this matchup with Kansas State because I think they're an okay offense. I don't think it's one of the better offenses that Baylor's faced. A lot of that's predicated around Avery Johnson and his ability to run the football. So it's a unique challenge for Baylor, but I don't think it's so unique that Baylor's going to be completely caught off guard for this particular game. So the more I dig into it, I like the matchup for Baylor, but it's also scary. It's Kansas State, and you don't want to drop to 3-3 at this point in the season.
I think it's an interesting just note that I was looking up this week because I wanted to kind of figure out. I did this with the offense last week, and we've talked about it with their future schedule and the fact that Baylor's offense is probably going to have a lot of success going forward. But one thing that I hadn't done yet was look at the opposing offenses and just kind of diving through, where do they rate advanced metrics wise? What do those metrics really say? And I mean, if you look at Kansas State, you kind of are going to put them with all of Baylor's November schedule. It's like UCF, Utah, Arizona, and Kansas State. Those four teams all have very similar offenses. Houston is an outlier because their offense is by far rated the worst. And I think that shows up on tape in my eyes, at least at this point in the season. But K-State falls in with that group. And that's a group that you're expecting to win, Utah's at home. I mean, maybe you're not expecting to win that game, but you're at least expecting to go 2-1 in that stretch of games. Mm-hmm. So you really need to find a way to win this one. It's at home against Kansas State. And then the other two outliers are TCU and Cincinnati. TCU's been pretty squarely a top 15 offense. I've seen them as high as 11 on one of the metrics. I think it might have been beta rank. And then Cincinnati's a top 25 offense after their performance against Kansas. So this really feels like a moment where, I hate doing this because I felt like we probably should have seen this last week against Oklahoma State. But I think coming off of that game and coming into this game in which nothing's changed for Kansas State from a play caller, from their quarterback, from really
what
anything.
you're getting.
What you're getting. I know Dylan Edwards missed some time, but maybe he changes the result of the Army game. That's about it. That's like really the only place I can truly go with it with him. Yeah. And so I just think when I look at that, I'm just kind of sitting here going, if Baylor can't put together a strong defensive performance like they did against Arizona State, a strong one, it doesn't have to be a dominant one. I don't know that we're going to see that all year, but a strong one where you're getting stops on third down against one of the worst third down offenses in the Big 12. You're getting stops on fourth down against one of the worst fourth down offenses. You're getting stops in the red zone against a team that has not been able to score in the red zone all year, you're going to have some success. And that's really what I want to see. How can they win on the margins? Because everyone talks about last year's team and how bad the defense was. And that is true. They weren't good. But in certain areas, they were awesome. And in specifics, it was red zone and third down. They were in the top 2 in the Big 12 in both of those areas. And then as we saw late in the year, the turnovers flipped for them as well, which started propelling them too. Can Baylor get back to winning in some areas? Just winning anywhere? Because right now, they're not winning anywhere. Like, there's nothing you can point at that goes, man, they're good at this. That there's nothing.
Yeah, I would say you mentioned Dylan Edwards in the Army game specifically. Watching those games, it wasn't really about Kansas State's offense. I mean, it was to a degree, but their defense was just so bad. Like, I mean, it is about their offense because their offense has not been good, but I think their defense is what cost them those games. They just couldn't get Army off the field. You look back to North Dakota that they played?
Yeah,
like they I mean, they just haven't been, and that's just that. It's kind of dumbfounding considering Kansas State and their program. I don't know what the exact issues are with their defense right now. I don't know if it's a personnel deal. They just have struggled overall. So what I'll go to on this particular game, and this is the time of season we start seeing more Big 12 relevant stats because you're playing Big 12 games. Everybody's played Big 12 games. You start seeing this. So I start leaning into those stats more because they're extremely more relative than, for instance, Texas Tech playing Oregon State, inflating what is now a Power 5. They're considered a Power 5 team statistically right now, but in a lot of ways they're not. We know that. And then Baylor playing Auburn on the opposite end of the spectrum, or SMU on the opposite end of the spectrum, is going to counterbalance each other. They don't do it that well, but once you just include Big 12 stats, it's very relevant. So all that's to say is Baylor's played 2 Big 12 games. A lot of teams have played 2 Big 12 games. Kansas State actually has 3 on paper if you consider the Arizona game. It doesn't count towards the standings, but it is a Big 12 game. Baylor is actually through 2 games. Red zone defense is better than I expected it to be. In terms of touchdown percentage, they're number 4 defensively in 50%. And then you look at the areas that are standing out to me in the bad ways, not statistically. Everything's kind of middle of the pack right now. But in bad ways, it's fumbles recovered, interceptions collected. Baylor's had opportunities, and they just haven't done it. They need to have a game like this where they force Avery Johnson into some turnovers, because against Oklahoma State, if you get some sacks that were right there for the taking, you might get some fumbles. You might get some turnovers. If you catch interceptions that were available to you, I think on a couple of opportunities, that kind of changes the complexion of the game. Baylor has to force some turnovers like we saw them do at the end of last year during this next stretch of, I guess it is not the back half of the season, but we're there for the most part.
Yeah, basically. I mean, this feels like a very pivotal game for the rest of the season. Like, I really believe that. I don't see me picking Baylor to win games at TCU, at Cincinnati, or Utah at home if they can't win this game. Like, I just don't. Yeah. I don't know how I would push myself to thinking that that's what would happen if once again they can't win at home. Like, not only is this not that great of a team, like Kansas State's not that great. I know that, and this is the other.
I don't believe their advanced analytic rankings right now. Like, I look at them and I'm like, that's kind of a shell of itself, in a bad way for Kansas State. Like, I don't know if their offense is number 54 in the country, and I watch their defense, and I don't believe they're the number 30 defense in the country. So I think it's like, are they overinflated right now for some reason? Potentially, or it could be they're better than what their record or their games have said, and that's possible too. I mean, they lost a close game to Iowa State, they lost a close game to Arizona that really wasn't that close, but the score was close. Arizona had control of that game.
Yes, very much so. And then, of course, Army, in which Army dictated that game. They played into Army's hand, and Army was able to dictate things. And Army's not what Army was last year. They're not. And so this just feels like that moment, kind of honestly, very much like the Tech game last year. I think that equates to it. I know it's not off a bye week, but
it's feel that way.
Yeah, it was like if Baylor loses to Tech, then Dave Aranda's probably going to get fired and that season's over. Like, basically is what we I chalked it up to. Like, if you can't win that game, then your season's
ultimately leads to that result. It's the measuring stick for the rest of the season. Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's this game. And frankly, Baylor's had a little bit of time here to kind of figure out who they need to be and who they are. And now they're facing a team that is bad enough for you to beat them at home. Like they're not that good, and they haven't shown to be that good, even though I do believe there are signs that maybe they're improving. They haven't turned the corner yet, in my eyes. And so now it's just going to come down to, can you take care of business? Can you win a game that you're supposed to win? Because they are supposed to win this game. I mean, they're favored by a touchdown. Like, you're supposed to win this game, and it's at home, and you haven't been able to win at home in 3 years, like not consistently at least. And so I look at this and I go, man, you got to find a way to win this game, because if you don't win this game, then you're probably in line for a battle to make a bowl. Like, to get to 6-6 will be an uphill battle in my eyes if they can't win this game.
Yeah, and I agree. And I want to look back, and I probably won't be able to find it this quick. I would be curious to see what Baylor's lines were in those games dating back, because I think a lot of those games are probably, besides the Oklahoma State line last year, I'm assuming most of those lines at home were relatively 3 point, 4 point, maybe less. Being a 6.5 home point favorite, like, I don't know when the last time, maybe it was the Oklahoma State game last year at home. I know it wasn't the Kansas game because Kansas was playing so well at the end of the season. It wasn't the TCU game. I think that was like a 2-point line.
Yeah, I do think the Kansas one was maybe like everyone was a little surprised that it was somewhat high. Like, I don't know if it was a full touchdown, but I think it was probably like 5 or 6 points.
Okay.
And maybe a little surprising. I think TCU was under 3. I think that one was kind of moving around a lot.
Yeah. But the overarching point to that is you're a touchdown favorite at home. Like, that in the Big 12, that's a relatively large line. We thought last week was bad, like large. It was large. Oklahoma State's not good. Baylor wins by 18 and you're disappointed. That kind of tells you what you need about Oklahoma State. But being a favorite by 6.5 at home is, in this league against a Kansas State team, that's a pretty big line. And that says, where it shifts to, I don't know, but you should feel like if you lose this game at home, that's a huge, like, you can justify losing at home to Auburn. You can justify losing at home to Arizona State to a great extent, especially after you see what Arizona State just did at home against TCU. But, like, you lose this game at home, and I don't think there's anything comparable dating back to 2022 that you can point to. Like, even the 21 season at home, I mean, where is it set up like this? What game was it be?
The one, I mean, the worst season is 2023. Them losing Houston was like, are you kidding?
The 2023, yes. That was at the height of disappointment, right? Like, I don't know what the line was for that game, and I'm trying to look back to see.
Baylor was a favorite in that game for sure.
Well, yeah, sure. They're a favorite, but I'm saying, like, from that point, what other games have transpired at home that you feel like, dang, like, you can't lose this game? Like, you could say justifiably maybe the BYU game last year.
Maybe.
No. Like, it's like you understand that. To me, you understand there ended up being an 11-win team. Mm-hmm. Was it going down the list? This is a game that I don't look at and say, oh, this is going to be like, if they lose it from a program perspective, it's okay. Like, we've talked about the home record a lot. This is a game that you cannot lose at home. Kansas State's not what they have been. You should go out if you're the better team and win this game. You cannot have a lapse in this game, and that speaks more to Dave Aranda not having this team ready if this happens.
I agree. This is the game now that I circled the Tech game last year. I think we both did on the podcast. I know for sure I was pretty adamant about it, and I'm going to be pretty adamant about this one. Like, if they don't win this game, it's going to be a battle to make a bowl game. It's going to be really hard to trust them or pick them in games going forward. All right, Colt, let's dive into these questions. We got 12 of them, so let's go through it. First question, Baylor Dad 79. Hi, guys. As always, I love the Bearcast. Don't ever stop. Well, we don't plan on it, so thank you for that. Maybe I missed it, but where was LeVar Thornton at defensive back during his last game? I didn't hear Coach Aranda mention him as banged up during the press conference, so I'm just wondering what's up with him. He was dealing with the concussion. He went through protocol last week, didn't clear protocol. So we'll see if he clears it this week. We didn't get an update, but my guess is we won't know. It was. It was. Also, do you think Kansas State has a more capable offense than Arizona State? If not, then why should we be worried?
No. I mean, are you taking Sam Leavitt over? I mean, are you taking Avery Johnson over Sam Leavitt at this point?
No chance. Not even close.
Running back wise,
Raleek Brown is better than Raleek Brown's the best.
Jordan Tyson.
No.
I mean, you're taking Jordan Tyson all day.
And Arizona State's offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, in Kansas State, I think that's the biggest area of struggle for Kansas State right now offensively. I just haven't been impressed with their offensive line. They they get pushed back a lot, and you don't see that a ton. Like I watched the UCF game, and UCF struggled in whole on defense, but the area that they were excelling was their ability to penetrate into the offensive line. And they don't have the big kid that went to Tech anymore either.
Yeah, K-State has two really good offensive linemen, but the problem is that as an offense line, you need a unit, and they have they have two clear holes like that just have been dreadful. One middle of the road, and then two really good offensive linemen, and so it's been really tough for them. I want to say it's a center and a tackle that are really good, based on kind of what I've seen and in various grades. So I think the thing that I would say is Kansas State has not been capable on offense all year long. They really haven't. They've struggled against every good team they faced. They've struggled. The only game they didn't struggle really were the last two against UCF, and then the one against North Dakota, which it's an FCS team. So I think this one against UCF was more about UCF being a little unchallenged up to this point.
We both said going into the year that we didn't think UCF was very good, and that's kind of proven out to be true. It's
just North Carolina was way worse than I thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year. They're so bad. And so I think UCF's going to end up being probably a 3-9 or a 4-8 team. Like they'll probably win like one, maybe two Big 12 games. I want to say their schedule actually plays out pretty good, where they get West Virginia and Oklahoma State in Orlando.
Yeah,
I might be wrong on that.
They could be wins. Yeah, I mean, those could be wins. I think I watched the game, the UCF game, Kansas State game. I watched it through yesterday, actually, but it was Kansas State advanced their lead in that game when the UCF quarterback went out. He was out for over a quarter. And then when he was in the game, UCF moved the ball, but Kansas State had a really short field at one time to get a score. Avery Johnson made a lot of plays with his legs, so you have to be wary of that. Like you have to expect they're going to come in and try to run the football with Avery in this game. But I also know from their trend early in the season, like they were trying to protect him in that area too. So like I'm curious their approach for the entirety of the season. Obviously he's a competitor and he wants to win, so I bet he does run. But yeah, in general, I don't know what to. I think the stats tell you a little bit, and then go back to the efficiency, advanced analytics. I think those numbers, I don't know what they're really based on right now, because I would not be comfortable picking Kansas State in a lot of games just based on what you see from them. And I don't trust that they're a top 60 offense other than Avery Johnson can run around. And obviously I don't think UCF is very good either. So good discussion there.
Yeah, UCF has West Virginia and Oklahoma State at home. They also have Houston at home. So like they could find a way to a bowl game, which
sounds like Tech's schedule.
Yeah. Especially their first three non-conference games as well. I do think one challenge that K-State does pose that Arizona State didn't do a lot of is they're going to design more quarterback runs, and they actually brought in their backup Blake Barnett to take some hits so that Avery didn't take all these hits in the run game. Yeah. I bet they challenge Baylor in that way, because Oklahoma State did it with a running back with success running that Wildcat. Yeah. I bet they bring in Barnett a lot to take more of those hits so that they can save Avery for, more explosive runs, and obviously save him as a passer as well. That is one challenge that I think Baylor is going to have to figure out, especially if they're going to continue to play very light up front.
Yeah. Before we go on to the next question, I found this list of Baylor being home favorite. So Kansas was actually a 2-point favorite to end last season. TCU, Baylor was a 3-point favorite. Baylor doesn't have a game. I didn't list one for the Oklahoma State game, but that was one of the more comfortable home favorites that they were. BYU, Baylor was a 3.5-point favorite. Utah, nope, that was only it. So all of 2024, all of the home lines were basically 3 points or less outside of the Oklahoma State game. This is a game you're favored by 6.5 in. Maybe it pushes up to 7, maybe it drops to 6, but like you're a solid home favorite. This is a game that Dave Aranda cannot afford to lose at home again. Like that would be detrimental to him. And obviously not just for the season, but in my mind, it just confirms a long-standing frustration of all Baylor fans losing at home.
It really does. It really does. Right now, just reiterating the stat, 4-12 at home since the beginning of the 2022 season against Power 4 competition. So it has been really tough, really tough. They're winning 25% of their games at home against the Power 4. So just something to keep in mind. Definitely a trend that hopefully breaks on Saturday. All right, next question from Golden Green. Do you think our frequent rotations help or hurt our defense? I counted that we gave 20 different guys snaps on Oklahoma State's first scoring drive alone. It was a 12-play drive.
Yeah, I mean, Baylor didn't do that against Arizona State. They played straight up the majority of that game. And so they come out, and I understand it. Like, I think we even went to that game saying, hey, like, Micah Gifford needs reps. Caleb Burns needs reps. Then obviously LeVar Thornton's out, so you're getting other guys reps. But, I don't know. Defensive line-wise, I get it. Like, you're light there, and you just had 3 guys play basically 65-plus snaps against Arizona State. So you bring them in and say, hey, we're going to go a little bit different direction with this game. We're going to limit their snaps. I want to see Keaton Thomas on the field the majority of the time. I don't know what his snap – I don't have it in front of me, what his snap numbers were for Oklahoma State. But
very high.
Yeah, and so the rotation's coming with the other linebackers and then the defensive line. But, I think there is some protection of the defensive line in the game against Oklahoma State because they could have easily gone out there and tried to run those guys for another 65-plus plays. But is that your best decision in that particular game? I don't think so. You don't want to get, especially with guys that have been dealing. Cooper Lands plays 25 snaps after coming off of being sick or whatever was going on with him. Obviously, Jackie's situation. I think it was a good spot for Oklahoma State. I'm not looking to the rest of the schedule and saying, hey, you should do this early in games.
Yeah, yes, we wanted to see these young guys play. I did not necessarily want to see them play on the first drive of the game, though. I mean, that
did a lot. Yeah.
I know, and I don't understand that. Like, you're a 2-2 team. Like you need to go out there and actually like try to impose your will, like punish somebody. And it just seemed like it was more about like getting a practice in at the beginning. And then it's like, oh, Oklahoma State scored 20 points and a half. And it's like, oh, well, now we got to like adjust. But like, man, you should start the game like that. And then use halftime to, okay, now we can get all these subs in. So I didn't quite understand the reasoning for that. Keaton Thomas played 67 snaps, which was the 79. Most on the defense. It was him and Kylan Reed played the most. Devin Bobby, 66. Those are guys that I think they're going to have trouble taking off the field. I do agree with you. Defensive line wise, like it wasn't like they were playing guys who shouldn't be playing. They were just rotating their main guys a lot more. And then
they just were playing one or two at a time.
And added Kyler Jordan to the mix at edge and played Kamarian Morgan a few more snaps at edge. So it was just kind of more like that. And that was fine. I do think in this game, they're going to probably have to play more 3-down linemen. I don't know that they're going to be able to be in peso the whole game. Because, again, it's the same kind of matchup, man. Like, you got to take away their running game. Like, you have to figure out a way to limit that. You got to force these receivers to beat you. And they don't have a Jordan Tyson to bail them out. Their best receiver is a good one, Jace Brown, but he is not Jordan Tyson. And so I just think that's the direction I would go. But obviously, that's not the direction that I feel like the staff has gone.
I'm not playing peso in this game. If it's one extreme or the other for me. I really like Baylor's dime look because it allows their speed. And honestly, I don't look at this Kansas State team as this power run team right now. Like, just maybe schematically, I think it's different. Now, I'm fine with 3-man front, what they did against Arizona State, play Jackie on that, over tackle, outside tackle. But I think the dime presents a lot of speed. And if you're looking at Dylan Edwards and Avery Johnson, I think that could be beneficial. I think you could go either way. I don't think they play peso in this game.
Yeah, I think that, I'd either go heavy or light, kind of what you're talking about, by playing the dime, or I go heavy because it's like, well, let's try to win up front.
And they haven't shown the consistency to win downfield with great athletes either.
Right.
And get a little less speed on the field that way.
I will say, I do think that some of what they did with bringing in their backup quarterback was to actually give them an ability in the inside zone type game. Most of Dylan Edwards' carries were kind of coming off tackle. A lot of the big explosives were either off tackle or kind of a zone blocking where he's picking his spot to cut back. But I don't know that they're very strong just kind of running it straight up the middle. And I think that's why they ended up having to bring in extra blockers, bring in a quarterback that you're going to be willing to run in short yardage situations. So it'll be interesting. A nice chess match there, I would say, for Dave Aranda versus Matt Wells, an old friend of his. Okay, next question. This is a little bit longer one, so bear with me. Bear in the NIL house. Question is at the end. I want to get your thoughts on if there is some truth to this theory on the coaching staff plan with the defense. If you look at the Arizona State game, we played bend but don't break the entire time. Dave was basically saying, we won't give up the big play. We'll give you everything underneath. Once you get to the red zone, we don't have to protect the backside as much, and we'll try to hold you to field goals. This was working, but because the offense struggled for about 2.5 quarters, the gamble that Arizona State would kick field goals while we scored touchdowns didn't pay off. I actually don't hate this approach because if our offense is firing, opponents can't afford to just try to keep up. We'll run them out of the stadium. Instead, they have to slow the game down, manage possessions, and limit plays to have a real chance to win. I expect Kansas State to do this. If we can do this consistently, we will win most games, even if we give up 400 to 500 yards a game. I trust our offense to score touchdowns while others score field goals. Arizona State was an outlier with the 3 turnovers. Do you think Dave and the staff has this thought and that why the defense is set up the way it is seems not to be changing?
Yeah, I mean it makes sense. Like you go into the season, you're worried about your secondary. You want to protect them in a lot of ways. The last couple of years, you've given up a ton of explosive plays. This is a type of scheme that you see across the Big 12. Iowa State does it. Arizona State does it. There's another. Kansas State does it in a lot of ways. A lot of teams do this, and you're gambling, and you're shortening the game by doing this. And I think that hurts. And I think that's the biggest pushback on this type of ideas. When you have an offense like Baylor's, you want to give them as many opportunities as you can. So if you're shortening the game with your defense, does that make sense? I think there is some truth to this because of the way that they've played. They're eliminating the big plays and basically saying we're going to trade you field goals for touchdowns. Now, the issue is that Baylor hasn't always converted touchdowns. They've given up field goals. They've passed up points to go for touchdowns. We saw it in the Arizona State game. We saw it in the Auburn game. I think there's probably more of a balance that Baylor could take. I'm not saying it's not that it's wrong what you're saying or it's right. I think it makes sense. I think you win games by eliminating big explosive plays and creating your own, and it's a great approach if you can pull it off.
You win a lot of games in the red zone. I mean, take a look at Auburn. Auburn has hemorrhaged yards, but what they're not doing is they're not giving up points, and they're making life miserable for opposing offenses when they get through the red zone. And we saw that with Baylor. Baylor couldn't score in the red zone against Auburn. And that's what they did against A&M this weekend and almost were able to pull off the win because of it. I think it works. I think that is what Dave and the staff are thinking. I don't think that you're going to see Aranda really change his approach. I know there was some conversation on the board. I know Travis had a post about it, how, having a attacking defense like a Phil Bennett's might work better for this specific team. But Aranda's never done that, at least at Baylor. So I don't really see him changing towards doing that, even though I see some merit in that as well. I do see some merit in playing more attacking and aggressive defense while saying, hey, we might give up some big plays, but we're also going to actually force some turnovers because right now they're not capitalizing on forcing turnovers. And so therefore it makes this defense, all it's really doing right now, just like being blatantly honest, is they're just wearing down the defense. That's all they're doing right now because they're just on the field for a ton of snaps, fighting, clawing, not getting any stops, not getting off field on third down, not getting off field on fourth down, not creating turnovers. Like right now, it's not working at all. Like they're getting it feels like they're just hemorrhaging yards. And then when they get to the red zone, right now, the Arizona State game's an outlier because they have been giving up touchdowns in the red zone. It's just not against Arizona State. They were able to come through during that. But I don't know if it's sustainable against every team they play. I think that when you face a team, like for instance, when they face TCU this year, I think this strategy actually makes sense because TCU, where their problem is going to be, is probably going to be in the red zone because they can't run the football. So if you can prevent them from creating explosives and you can shrink the field on them, it makes sense. But when you face some of these other teams like a Utah, are you actually going to be able to get off field? Like, are you going to stop the run enough to where you can get off the field in the red zone? That's the biggest problem. If they can't stop the run, then some of these teams, I mean, K-State might be an example as well. Like if Baylor can't stop the run, then all of this doesn't matter, because when you get to the red zone, it really does come down to, can you stop the run or not? Because if you can't, like we saw against Auburn, they're just going to wear you down, and they've already kept you on the field for about 8 to 10 plays. And now they're in the red zone, you're gassed, and now they're just running the football right at you, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's literally what Auburn did. And that's why they had so much success in the red zone against Baylor, despite the fact they hardly threw the ball at all.
Yeah, I'm in agreement to a great degree. I think that I think what Dave Aranda is going to do, you're going to look at every game differently. And it's the same thing we've seen with the defensive line, to the offensive line, to the linebackers, whatever package they're running, the majority of these games. I think you have to look into what your opponent's going to do. And you just mentioned this, like, well, if you're playing Utah, does that make sense? Probably not. Kansas State, I think that you can afford to say, like, I don't even know if I agree that Baylor did that against Arizona State. I think their run defense just played pretty well, and that's what kept them in that game. Like, that's what ultimately they were able to do enough up front. They were able to spill things to the side and not get gashed. Like, TCU got gashed by Arizona State. Baylor did not get gashed the way that TCU did. And ironically enough, TCU plays with that hyper-aggressive mentality of we're going to either be boom or bust. And what did the game? There's 27-24, same final result as the Baylor game, which is
they
nuts.
They did force turnovers, though.
They did? Well, what was it, 1 or 2? You're talking about TCU?
I thought it was 2. The strip on Levitt, and then didn't they have an interception in the red zone? I think they had 2.
I will look. I'm not sure. I just know.
I think they both were in the red zone. I think they forced 2 Arizona State red zone turnovers in that one. Yes, Baylor didn't get gashed,
total gain was 1. They had 1 fumble gain and no interceptions. So they got 1 and gave up 3 of their own. That's what I'm just looking at the turnover margin from that game. Unless there was something that was not considered a turnover.
Maybe Arizona State got the end zone interception. Maybe that was on Hoover.
Probably they had 2 Arizona State collected 2 interceptions, got 1 fumble, and they're +2.
So they got 1.
Yeah, and
if Baylor had gotten 1, they probably would have won, though.
Yeah, they would have, and so. And you don't give up 3. I mean, that was a very similar game with 2 different types of strategies between defense, between Baylor and TCU. And it ultimately led to the same result, the same exact score. But, so there's reasonings to like different ways, but ultimately where you're going is probably your playmakers making plays. And when you talk about similar ability on that side of the ball, I don't know what Baylor does from here on out. I think Dave Aranda is going to take these approaches of game to game. I think if you're trying to pigeonhole yourself to one style of play, then you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, you absolutely will be, especially with TCU coming up after this one, who plays different than any team they're going to play all year. So that's going to be a very interesting one there. All right, next question here. Useless Kim Degree. Hey, guys, how would you rate the transfer portal success or fit rate from this season? Has the season progressed enough to make an accurate assessment of who was a hit and who was a miss? Obviously, injuries suck, and that is taken into account when I think of which transfers have and haven't seen the field much. So, I guess just kind of in general, where we at the transfer portal class so far.
Yeah, I'm going to pull this up because I think it's appropriate to go through the list. Interesting. I don't know if this list is complete. I don't know if we have it fully updated. Calvin Simpson-Hunt hasn't played the last 2 games at all.
Got passed up by Caldra, who is trending towards a hit. He's trending towards a hit out of the portal.
And he has multiple years.
Yeah, Reggie Bush was playing over Calvin Simpson-Hunt as well.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's something with Calvin. They're not discussing, he's not on the injury list, but if there's something going on there, maybe potential position change situation. Maybe. I don't know. Whatever it is, he's not playing at all right now after playing significantly the first – not significantly, but was a primary backup early on. Amarian Winston, I haven't been disappointed. Yeah, I haven't been disappointed with him. I think he's been a staple.
Walker White as well is a hit. Yeah, those 2 at edge are both hits.
Yeah, Walker White to be determined. Tyler Turner, he's a co-starter, I guess you would say, and I think he's improved too.
I think that the one thing to remember about Tyler Turner is he's improving, but the bigger thing to remember is he was brought in to be Devin Turner and Devin Bobby's backup. So what I'm seeing from him as a role piece, I think he's doing well. He's kind of exactly what they brought him in for. The problem is he and Jacob Redding are both being thrown into roles where they're having to start. And they're not as good as Devin Turner yet. They're just like Devin Turner was literally.
That's so frustrating.
I know it's hyperbole, and I know that we didn't get to see him play, and I know people are going to have pushback on this, but I think there's a good argument that he was going to be their best secondary player, even better than Devin Bobby. Like, there were high expectations for Turner as a player. And the other thing that I thought about this week is, do you think if they had Devin Turner, do you think it might have made things, I guess I'll just put it out there. I think if they had Devin Turner, someone that they trusted back there, they might run more one high safety and allow Devin Bobby to play in the box more and have one high. I think that against Auburn specifically, I think they would have ran that more because they trusted him.
Yeah, I mean, that you have a guy that's played a ton of snaps. I mean, he had 1,500 career snaps coming into the season, and was good. I mean, Northwestern wasn't great, but he was a solid player for them.
Their defense was good, though. For how bad their offense was, their defense was good.
But yeah, I mean, I think it does. And so that's a lot of these transfers in this particular situation included. It's like, what were the expectations for them? And I'll just keep going through this list. So you mentioned Devin Turner. For what he was asked to do, Tyler Turner, for what he was asked to do, expected to do, yes, he's been a hit. He's going to provide 2 more years after this year of solid play, in my mind. Travion Barnes, unfortunately injured. I mean, that's 3 games in. And I think you go back to for that particular situation, and you can chime in on this, but when did – I don't know if Keaton Thomas is the best example. He was just ready to go so soon. But like, I don't know if either one of the linebackers, Travion Barnes or Phoenix Jackson, we got to see what they were fully capable of. And that's exciting for next year, but it sucks for this year in the way that panned out. Travion, they both had their issues early on. I would love to see them for the entirety of 12 games.
I would have as well. And now dealing with injuries, it's tough. And I mean, they're injured. So I don't want to call anyone who is injured a miss because I think it's to be determined. But I guess if you're going off of success, it's not successful because now you're not stuck with, but you're kind of at the point where it's okay. You got Keaton and Kylan Reed, and you brought in 2 guys to be the co-starters at the other linebacker position. So now you're just kind of back with where you were at before the transfer portal.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you are. I mean, that's. I mean, you look across the defensive front 7, and you're basically playing with what you had last year, which is crazy to think about. I mean, sorry, not the front 7, excluding the edges. So you have those guys, but defensive line wise, same dudes, and so leads to. Adonis Freelo, Samu. At this point, they're not playing. Now, I think this game against Kansas State's potentially they're going to get their situational reps because you're really trying to play 3-down linemen. I don't want to. Samu's still young, so I'm curious through another offseason what's going to happen with him. Adonis at this juncture, I think he is what he is. Like he's going to give you some reps in key situations, but right now it seems like they just got away from that completely.
Yeah, you need him to be your Linus from last year. And so far, they just have had more success running different defensive looks than running their normal base package. And so you would think that this would be a good week for Adonis to get on the field if they're going to run more 3-man fronts. But then you look forward on their schedule, and it's like, dude, you're probably not going to play him much against TCU because you're probably going to be in Peso a whole lot more. Cincinnati's starting to throw the football now. They're more of a running team, so maybe some reps. But it's hard to imagine that he's going to get a ton of reps. And I don't really know what to expect from him. I do think he'll play because they'll need him in situations. And then for Samu, it's like dude showed up on campus and got hurt immediately. And then now it's like he's trying to work himself back. And the only time we've really seen him, he's actually been impactful, but it's like he just comes in for a goal line and 4th and 1. And that's it. That's all he comes in for. So getting him fully conditioned would be huge. But one thing I will say about him, he's a huge pickup who could hit later on in his career.
Yeah, he still has 3 years.
And he's got a lot of a very high ceiling for what they need. They really need this nose tackle position to get anchored. And if he can be that guy in the future, then it's a hit. But for this year, it's a clear miss. I thought he was going to be the starter. I didn't even think it was going to be that big of a question, but the injury certainly set him back. And then they brought in Adonis as well because of that.
Yeah, and then you lose Brendan Bett and this whole situation. So
who go through that basically starts for Florida. It's just man, huge miss.
So Calder Williford, we mentioned him trending towards a hit. I mean, he looks really good. He's had some PIs, but He's kind of scrappy. I actually really like him. He has another year too. Devin Turner talked about him. Phoenix Jackson, Travion Barnes, Jalen Jones redshirting from UTEP. I think he has high potential.
He wasn't expected to play this year. He was coming
Correct.
into redshirt because he played his true freshman year at UTEP. So he was able to get this year to redshirt.
Yep.
So he'll be a nice developmental piece alongside Kamarian Morgan going into next year.
Yep. Joe Crocker, 4 year. He had 4 years left. Reserve 3. I thought he was a redshirt freshman. Is he redshirt freshman?
I thought it was redshirt sophomore. Either way,
multi-year guy. Wasn't expected to be a starter this year. Depth guy at best for this year. So curious to see how that develops. Obviously had a great relationship with Mason Miller. But he didn't become the starter at guard, Colton Siraki, which we kind of expected that. Colton's been really good, and that makes a lot of sense. Then you're talking about you get into the receiver room. So Kobe Prentice, Cole Wilson, Lewis Brown.
Well, yeah, 2 of 3 hit. Lewis Brown maybe a hit next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that indicator there, because they could very well just say, "No, we're not doing this. We're not going to redshirt you. We're going to keep playing you." And they didn't. And maybe that's for his, and he can transfer out if they decided to. But I think that's trending towards, hey, we want you for next year. We need you. You just don't have the reps right now.
Yeah, I think this is what we talked about in the offseason. I know we mentioned it a lot. He really impressed a lot of people in the room, and just kind of, I think they didn't expect him to be this good. I think they were kind of thinking, okay, if we need someone because someone gets hurt, we can play him and feel okay. But I think they view him as better than that. And so since he's not getting reps this year, I get why they did this. And it makes sense when you look at, okay, they're probably going to lose Josh Cameron. And unless and Ashton Hawkins. And then unless 5 for 5 happens, they're going to lose Cole Wilson and Kobe Prentice as well. Yeah. So to be determined on that. But either way, they're losing their 2 outside receivers. So to have Lewis Brown as your anchor there, and then it's like, hey man, you bring in Jordan Clay, who looks like he's going to be a stud. He might be your other starter outside. You got Taz, you got Ja'Cory Watson, bringing in London Smith.
Yeah.
They got a lot of intriguing parts. Jaden Porter, of course, as well, as kind of your veteran. And I think their belief in Jaden is probably another reason why they felt like they could do this with Lewis. I would think
too. And the risk of not redshirting Jaden, he has another year for that 5 for 5 to pass. So if you get to January and this 5 for 5 hasn't passed, then Lewis is up a creek. He can't redshirt at that point. He can't wait until next fall to utilize this unless things are grandfathered in. But you can't go into the spring as a program not knowing. Jaden has a year regardless, so he's coming back in the spring no matter what. So I think that helped. Outside of that, I don't know if there's any other guys, Tyler Kirkwood, Ron Shackelford, not brought in to contribute this year or be
Well, Kirkwood only has 1, so I think he was special teams. Placide Jungo Sungo had a pump block, so for him just being a late addition walk-on, he's a hit. I mean, he made a special teams play. Kirkwood, 1-year guy, again, just brought in for special teams and various purposes. Shackelford is a multi-year guy, so again, it's to be determined. They like him, though. Good returner, good speed, could eventually be something. We'll see on that. Anywhere else? I'm trying to think. Nothing else on the list there. I think that's all.
No, I think that's all of them. Connor Cameron was the transfer from Arizona State, but was basically a walk on that came in
practice squad type.
Yeah, Alessandro Lorenzetti from Michigan. Basically, a guy brought in when you're struggling with depth on the defensive line. But yeah, I mean, I think Baylor had a pretty successful haul. The guys that they needed to hit, for the most part, have hit, besides Samu, and that's unfortunate because the defensive line needed it the most.
And I don't think this is – I know I've said it, but I just love – I feel like it has to be reiterated. When Devin Turner got hurt and when Brendan Bett left the program, there was no one else in the portal that they could get.
And Alex Foster's situation.
Yeah, Alex Foster passing away. There was nothing in the portal then. And so, yes, you can say, oh, well, how does Baylor not have depth there? It's like, dude, when those guys got hurt or left or passed away in Alex Foster's case, that there was nothing they could really do to replace them 1-for-1. And that's what I talked about with Brendan Bett. Like, they brought in some guys. They brought in Aleki Manutai recently. He enrolled recently. Yeah. They brought in Alessandro Lorenzetti. Like, they're just bringing in guys to just be bodies, but not really to be productive.
But the ones that sting are Trey Wilson, Kai, and Robert Stay. And so you look and say, where's your depth? Like, that's your depth. That would have been your depth guys. And Trey has played 30 snaps at SMU.
Trey would have been terrible in this defense.
But I'm saying, but it's who at this point you're playing 4 defensive linemen.
Yeah.
Kyan Roberts-Day, who played quite a bit, has done moderately well at UTSA, but he would have been a depth piece.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, you start running in these peso and dime packages because you don't have depth.
Right.
These guys are valuable. Not that they're this. Brendan Bett was the big one in all of this. He's your top 3. He's a top 3 guy. Along with playing him next to Jackie would have been massive.
Yeah, and how the nose tackle situation is played out, I think it's pretty clear he probably would have been the starter. Isn't that great? Like, because I thought he was going to for sure play DT, like be one of the backups to Cooper or Jackie. But the way that DK won the job at nose tackle just is like, no, their starters would have been Cooper Lands, Brendan Bett, and Jackie Marshall when they ran 3-man fronts.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good question there, though. I mean, obviously we can talk about those throughout the entire season, but I think we have an indication on several of them.
Next question from CV Bear. Thanks, Grayson. I appreciate your insight. Appreciate that, CV. I was excited when the team added Adonis Frilu and Samu Taumanu Pepe from the portal. I thought particularly Samu, would be contributing, maybe even starting. Neither seems to be a factor so far. Were my expectations too high? Have they not been physically ready or not able to learn the defense? What is your evaluation and expectation for these players going forward? I think we kind of talked about that. Just really quick on Samu. He played 1 day during the spring, got hurt, and then was out for the entire spring, all through the summer, came back in fall camp, was out of shape, had to get his body back. And I just think that's been an ongoing process for him. And it's unfortunate because when they brought him in, he was expected to be the starter. And I know for a fact on the first day of spring football, he was the starter at nose tackle. So it's just very unfortunate for him. My expectations are still very high. I think he'll be the starter next year at nose tackle. I think Baylor is sorely missing a true nose tackle. I love DK, but there is something about having a guy who's, 300.
He can play 2 gaps.
Pounds. You just, it's hard to replace someone like that. They don't have really anyone else like that. Jackson Blackwell may turn into that, but right now Samu is kind of the future there, but it doesn't look like he'll be this year. And then Adonis, we're still waiting to be seen, but I think eventually he'll have a role kind of like a Linus did last year if they choose to go that direction, which we don't know if they will or not.
Yeah, I think it's going to be game to game. I don't have anything to add, but I mean, you needed one of those guys to hit, and they didn't. So it's unfortunate for this season.
It is. All right, Matty Ice 398. With Lewis Brown redshirting, do y'all think we move Cole Wilson out wide more in order to get Kobe Prentice, the touchdown machine, more snaps? The slot fade with our speed on the inside should be called a couple times every game. Also excited to see more of Porter if that's what they do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the one that impacts directly is Jaden. I don't think anything else is going to change because of this particular red shirt. Like they were running their offense and Lewis was filling in appropriately, but I don't think Cole's role is going to change anyway. Jaden might get more snaps because of this. You just take over those snaps that Lewis gives up, but neither one of them are playing a ton right now.
Yeah, I think that there's maybe a couple things to this. Ashton and Josh have been your starters on the outside. And so if one were to go down, I do think Cole Wilson would probably be the guy that becomes your starter out wide, who plays the majority of the snaps there. And then Kobe Prentice becomes a full-time starter in the slot. That's the easiest route in my mind of doing it. Yeah. But I do agree that it probably does open up more room for Jaden to get on the field and play more, which I kind of like. I like that they would be giving him some more reps. But in general, your other point is 100% accurate. I really like the receivers that Baylor has, but I do not see how they keep Kobe Prentice off field. Like, the guy is producing at a crazy rate. And yes, some of it is probably due to the fact that he comes in for a specific amount of routes, and those routes are all it's always in situations where they're designing things for him. But man, he has been so productive, so consistent. I frankly do not know how you keep him off the field at this point. Every time he catches the ball, it's a big play. And it's like, he's also been reliable. That's the thing that's been missing here. It's like, he's creating explosive plays, but he's also not dropping the football. Like he's he's been efficient and been, when he's been targeted, good things have happened. So I do hope his snaps increase. I think he's a game breaker.
Yeah, and I think the discussions of the turnover at receiver, which you knew you brought Josh and Ashton back, but you talked about losing Hal and losing Monterey, and how would those things always been answered? I mean, this is like what Baylor has right out there right now. They're running out there. It far exceeds what they had running out there this time last year, and that wasn't a bad receiver group. It's just this is handpicked in a lot of ways for this scheme, where last year was kind of like, we're getting there, but it's not there yet.
You're fitting guys. You're fitting guys who were in a different scheme to fit your current scheme. And so you had that was an issue. And that, I mean, we saw it with Keytron Jackson too, who's also part of that group. It's just like, you're trying to fit guys who maybe aren't perfect fits for your offense. And now they have more fits. The one thing they are missing that would have been nice to have one of those guys back is just a little more size. And that's where you kind of thought Lewis Brown might play a role, but I mean, Ashton wins on the outside a lot, even though he's not big. And of course, Josh. I mean, Josh is their one guy out there, but they don't have a ton of size. It's a lot of little guys. Yeah,
and but that is the fortunate part of this type of scheme. You're scheming guys to get open in space, you're not waiting on that alpha 6'3", 195-pound freak. Like Lewis has that kind of athletic ability. You don't always need those types of guys. They have some smaller guys that get open, and Sawyer can hit them. And that's the benefit of the scheme. It's to help lesser, quote, talented teams be able to win.
Yeah, and I mean, they obviously are trying to address that with guys like Jordan Clay. They brought in Ashton Jones in the last class. They are trying to get a little bit bigger out there. And when they looked through the portal initially, they were also trying to get guys like that. Yeah. Also, when you look around at the guys that they were potentially looking at, they haven't done a whole lot. So just point that out there. That's where the portal kind of comes in.
This year is going to help the portal classes. Outstanding, especially obviously retaining Spav, but schematically, people are going to look at Baylor in a different light than they did the last couple of off seasons.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Easy does it with the next question. Please remind us of our all injured reserve list so far, and the expected contributors who won't play this season but are expected to be back next season, and those who have been out but are expected back this season. Okay, so kind of an injury update list. So the ones who are out, and Colt just add to the list, these are just fully out for the whole year: Phoenix Jackson, Travion Barnes, Devin Turner, and
Dawson Pendergrass.
Is that it? Those four?
Let me pull up. I'm trying to find.
I want to say it's just those four are done for the year and are expected to be back. I think that translation.
And those are the guys that are out for the year. Yes.
Yeah. And then moving to who's been out but expected to be back, the main ones that we're looking at there really is just LeVar Thornton, right? I mean, he's the only one that's out at the moment.
Carl Williams is still up in the air.
Carl will play again this year, but I do think that there is part of this where they're going to wait till he's 100%.
You got to wait until he's good to go.
I don't think they're going to play him at 80, which I think based on what I've heard, I think he's at around 80 or 90 right now. And I just think they don't want to bring him back for a couple reasons. It's like, you don't want him to re-aggravate or get hurt again. You don't want to play him in which he's not playing well enough to be playing, and then it hurts his confidence. Yeah. And I just think there's factors, but those two specifically are the ones where I'm like, I think they're going to wait till he is all the way back. Maybe after the bye week could be an opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, and it's tough, man. Like you don't have him and you don't have Devin Turner like that. Like your outlook from January until now, that was such a key part of your defense. And that's secondary specifically. You hope that they can both get to the point of next year they're playing consistently and regular, because that could be a big boost to your secondary.
I mean, Carl just for the TCU game could be a big boost. I mean, just like a healthy Carl just to get another guy out there.
And that's 3 weeks away at this point with the bye week. So
maybe. Anyone else that's out that's expected to be back this year that we haven't?
No, I mean, that's just the availability report from the Oklahoma State game. Cooper Lands obviously was back for the Oklahoma State game. He played 20 snaps or so. He should play more as we get farther along. But LeVar was the big one. All the other guys are out for the season though that were listed as out.
Okay. Also, from Easy Does It, I sat behind DJ Coleman's family at the SMU game. Great folks, and I'm excited to see his increasing role in the defense. What does his emergence mean for us this season? Well, it's been kind of a godsend because with Carl Williams out, they have really needed DJ to play well. I'm in the camp of DJ should be getting pretty much all the snaps at star. That's where I'm at. I've said it for a couple weeks now. I know Kendrick brings some specific things to the field with his blitzing, but DJ is so solid. He's played so well. I find it hard to imagine taking him off the field very much. So that's where I'm at. It's been huge for them. They really need someone to step up there, and he certainly has.
Yeah, and that makes it easier to just hold on to Carl Williams getting healthy, let him get back to where it needs to be, because he's not a weakness right now. And arguably, I mean, through these 5 games, like I don't know that Carl would have been any better playing star or playing nickel, what they're calling it now. And it could allow you to play Carl deep when he comes back. If he feels comfortable playing back there, that's a huge bonus at that point. Like if you feel Carl can play that at a high level and have that range that you might not already have, DJ is allowing that to happen. And I'll give Kendrick a lot of credit too. Like when they're playing their dime packages, they're on the field together and they both do things well enough. Like I love watching them play around the line of scrimmage when they're on the field together in dime. Like they both are aggressive and can tackle, but like DJ, his entire career, if you look back to like PFF tackling grades, he's always been a great tackler. Like he never great. I mean, he had the Sanford game was poor, but you're talking about a guy that has 18, 20 plus tackles this year and has graded above 80% in tackling every single game except the Sanford game. I really like DJ, and I think 5 for 5 rule is a major benefit of him because he didn't get the red shirt.
He's been awesome, and I think he's kind of answered some questions there for Baylor at star going forward. The one thing that they don't have at star still is they still don't have a guy who is not only good in coverage, but is also creating a lot of havoc. DJ's been good. He's forced a little bit, but they really need an uptick in guys forcing turnovers from that position. So hopefully that starts happening for DJ going forward. That's the one area that I look at that, man, when that position is playing at its highest level, those turnovers start to come because you're getting to blitz a lot from there. You're dropping into coverage, but getting to watch the quarterback. You're not playing a lot with your back to the quarterback. It gives you a lot of opportunities in that regard. So excited to see if that is the next step there. Next question, Baylor Bear 88. Grayson, you've mentioned at least a couple times that I've heard that our notorious slow starts may be related to our preparation. What do you know about what we do or don't do, and what would you suggest could be different in order to change the way that we start games? I think my point on that has less to do with what specifically do they do the night before and more so to how do they perform on the field. So it's more like, why would you do the exact same things every single week for these home games and expect different results? I mean, that's just kind of where I'm at. They've had so many problems with these home games. Like, and it's a number of different things. It's turnovers here. It's losing a close game. It's getting blown out. It's like they've lost in so many different ways. That I'm like, I just feel like there should be a change up. I do think that playing at 11 a.m. could help because their practices have been in the morning this year, and I believe last year as well. I don't like correlating too much on, game times, but for some people, it matters, and the trends right now speak to Baylor being a better team at it during the day than they are with these night games. And those night games have been big time, prime time games. I understand that, but also Baylor's won a lot of those 11 a.m. games that have been, maybe not as important, but pretty important. Dating back to 2022, obviously 2021, they beat Texas and Oklahoma at 11 a.m. in that season.
Well, and that's could ultimately be the changeup that they need. I mean, they have been given the later kickoff times, but I think it does just come down to, hey, I want to go back to the Kansas State game. You're favored by 6.5. And that means that this game isn't necessarily a toss up on paper. No. That means you're a home favorite. You're a neutral site favorite. Get in a game that you're supposed to win and go win it, and that can help. Besides the Oklahoma State game last year, they were all toss ups, and I don't know what they finished record wise last year. But when you're playing competitive games at home, you're going to lose them, and then if you're a bad team at home, then obviously you're going to lose them. So Baylor just needs to flip the script. Like they got to get out of their own head with that, because I think it's in the fans' head, but I also think Baylor fans and obviously David Randa realize it as well.
Definitely. All right. Next question, Mort Dog. Do you foresee any shakeups with the offensive line? And then also, where were Samu and Freelu last game? I mean, we mentioned this with the two nose tackles. It just was a bad matchup for them. And Baylor was running more of their peso and dime and playing less defensive linemen in that game. It just wasn't a good matchup for them. So we'll see if that changes going forward. But that's kind of what I saw there. As far as the shakeups on the offensive line, do you see anything specific that they might change?
I mean, no, I'm not really overly concerned about the offensive line right now. I mean, Colton, if Omar's out, Colton Soraki is your starter at right guard. But I mean, we can nitpick about the offensive line, the offense, whatever. I think that there's some areas like, hey, converting fourth downs. If you're going to go for them at this rate, then you better get Sawyer's legs involved. Getting in the red zone, taking points when you maybe on the fringe of red zone. But I'm not just going to sit here and just say, oh, the offensive line needs to be rebooted. Like, I think they're fine. So no, I don't expect anything major unless there's injuries.
That's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I just don't see anyone on the depth chart that I'm like, you have to get them on the field or at least try. I think last year when they had that just mixture of Alvin Ebosele, Sidney Fugar, and Caden Siraki all going out for tryouts at left tackle, it was like, all right, eventually you got to make a choice here and solidify.
Stop rotating him.
Right. And that's what they did with Sidney, but they're not really doing that this year. My one question is actually Sidney, because I think Sean Tompkins is the only depth guy that I could see. Okay, maybe you decide to make that change if he's shown you enough, but I don't think he's shown me enough to replace a guy like Fugar who gives you just tremendous upside for this specific season. If he can start figuring it out like he did last year, Caden Siraki as well, like both those guys have got to play better and got to take that next step. And if they're going to miss Omar, it's going to hurt this offensive line more. But in general, I think it's more about the offensive line becoming better as a whole than one individual part getting better. They have not played as cohesively as they did a year ago. And that's been unfortunate to watch.
Yeah. And to, Sydney's credit, or however you want to say that, I mean, he's played some pretty good edge teams. I mean, you talk about Auburn, SMU, and Arizona State. Oklahoma State did not present the same challenges, but like you're out there on the island at left tackle and your scheme to be helped. But Auburn, SMU, and Arizona State have some pretty good dudes out there on the edge, and you're not going to face that level throughout the rest of the season. Like thinking ahead, I mean, Utah's going to have some guy. They had the guy, I don't remember what his name is. It's really good, but for the most part, you should see a little bit more return to normalcy for that left tackle position through the last 7 games.
K-State's got a couple that may present challenges. They're weaker up the middle and weaker in the run than they are in the past. But you're right. I mean, watching Arizona State, those dudes, Clayton Smith get after, and Prince Dorba get after Josh Hoover. Yeah. It's like, man, they held up pretty well against those guys who are really good, really, really good. And obviously did well against SMU, not so well against Auburn. For obvious reasons. Auburn's got like 3 NFL edge guys.
Yeah, and they've done that to everybody they've played. You can talk about their offense, but their defense has done that to everybody.
Right, and they didn't have K'Ron Crawford for a lot of that A&M game, and K'Ron Crawford's actually been playing better than Keldrick Falk has. And so, like, and they were all healthy for the Baylor game.
Yeah, they're all there. For game one, they're all good.
All right, next question for Doc Crowell. Ironically, moving to a single traditional down lineman in the dime package resulted in much better running defense in the second half versus Oklahoma State. Renda has clearly stated he wants the defense line to take on blocks and stuff up lanes for linebackers to come in and clean up. Are the rushing defense woes ironically best solved by limiting the defense linemen on the field, or was this a one-off against a terrible Oklahoma State team that we won't see against a good rushing offense like, say, Utah?
You can take. I have my thought, but I'll let you start.
You go first. On it.
Well, I think we look at Oklahoma State. If they're going to do anything well offensively right now, it was going to be run the football, and then they changed that personnel. So I think Baylor got caught in between of what should we play, and then the peso didn't work, and they went to dime and got more aggressive, and they weren't able to get the edge, and they tackled well. They tackled better in the second half. I don't know if you want to go play Kansas State and Utah with a dime package. Like I think there's a benefit to it at times. Maybe if you feel like, hey, our defensive line are just going to get shoved around, but if we play with smaller, quicker guys, we can be more disruptive and clog up some stuff more than we would with our bigger guys who are just getting pushed around. I'm not willing to say that I don't want Cooper Lands, Devontae Tesno, Jackie Marshall and DK being the blunt object that you stifle run. Like they did well against Arizona State. Like I think that you have to look at that and say, hey, we're going to face some teams that are going to challenge us, but Arizona State's up there is among the best in that regard, and they held their own. So I'm not willing to say let's just get away from it altogether because I think there's some potential. I think Baylor's truly trying to protect the snaps that those guys are playing right now.
Yeah, I think Cooper Lands, the fact that he was out the week before and wasn't 100% for the Oklahoma State game was a big reason why they kind of had to do this because he wasn't playing to his normal level. I do not think this will work against teams who want to run the football with their quarterback. Specifically, I think when Baylor gets outnumbered with blockers with a running quarterback, and if they're in the dime package, I think they're going to hemorrhage yards. I just don't think that is a recipe for success, and that's why they didn't run against Auburn. They didn't run against SMU. They didn't run against Arizona State. Like, you have to be more solid. But in this game, they had zero fear of the quarterback run game, except when they were in the Wildcat. But that's a little bit different because they have to run the football. I think that's probably the thing I would say on that. I don't think against Kansas State a great recipe is going into the dime package. I think you can run some peso. But I would also like to see them have their 3 down linemen with one edge at times. I think this is a good matchup for it. And I think Utah's a good matchup for it. And you look down the list, like Cincinnati, very mobile quarterback. UCF, mobile quarterback. Utah, mobile quarterback. Arizona is the only one that doesn't really have a mobile quarterback. And then Houston, Weigman is kind of in between. Yeah. But it is an interesting conundrum that they're going to face going forward. I think the dime package really works against a team like TCU. I think it can be pretty effective in a matchup like that. The dime and the peso package seem to be good fits for that, but not necessarily for the rest of their schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned this earlier. I think they can you have to game plan accordingly. So I don't know what we're going to see from game to game, but like what you just said, I think that's kind of the rundown of what you're going to go with. But I think there's plays, 3rd and long against Kansas State might be a great place to use dime. Like you don't want Avery's going to throw, but if he's going to scramble, you better have the speed on the field to catch him.
Yep, exactly. Yes to that. I would agree with that. Swatanejo Bear. I know it has been said, I've heard it more from Grayson, that with Aranda taking over the defense, he shouldn't hand it back off until it is fixed. However, with all that is required of the head coach and by his own admission that he is spread thin and his old approach needs to evolve, is this the offseason, the time to bring in a new defense coordinator? After the last 2 years, hopefully he has learned how he can contribute without being the main defense coordinator. Of course, this assumes Aranda is still here, and after last time, I don't like Palage moving back into this role. I guess since it's more directed towards me, I don't see how he could give up being defense coordinator without the defense actually reaching where it needs to go. I think his best attribute is his ability as a defense coordinator. So I just don't know why you would go away from that. I know there's only so many hours in the day. I know there's only so much of this and that, but it's like, that's why you have Paul Gonzalez as your pass game coordinator. That's why you have Matthew Palage as your de facto co-defense coordinator to some extent. It's not like he's doing all of the game prep for all of these matchups. So I think it needs to continue until he completely solves it and then finds someone he trusts. Now, if they go out and go 9-3 or 10-2 this year, then sure, why not? Because they won enough games that it doesn't matter. But I would say that in general, this defense needs to be playing a lot better before I would feel great about him handing off the keys when that's his best attribute.
Yeah, I think it comes down to team success. Like, that's where I am. And you said that at the end, but I think that's where it comes down to. If Baylor has team success and stabilizes, then he feels like, hey, we've stabilized where we need to stabilize as a program, maybe not as a defense specifically. I can go out and hire someone now that's going to come in and say, hey, I'm going to, partner up with a pretty good offensive scheme now. Dave Aranda's taken on the brunt of that for the last 2 years. That's my path to him not being the defensive coordinator anymore, is he has to be ready and trust someone to hire. He's developed the depth that was missing the last couple of years on the defensive side of the ball with another recruiting class, another portal class. I think that is all dictated on how the season finishes and the team success, not necessarily. I think the defense is going to take part of the team success in the record is more than it is the actual whatever your metric is for measuring the defense. It's if the team wins, that's the decision that's going to be made later on.
Fair enough. All right, Matty Ice, one more question here to wrap us up. Okay, did y'all see Tarian York's comments about Baylor and how if we were more aware of Jackson Arnold's ability to run, that Baylor probably would have won? Not sure how much of that statement is true or just for clicks. Either way, do y'all think we make changes to how we face dual threat quarterbacks in the run game in general? Seems like all of these guys are better runners than throwers, yet for some reason we don't force them to beat us with their arms. Thanks, guys.
Well, Baylor did that against Arizona State. I mean, they forced him to. Their run game was not the reason they won that game. Like in my mind, Arizona State. So like I'm excluding that game sucked. Okay, like I get that, but like the trend since that point has not been that same trend. And so like I think we have to start differentiating that. There's enough sample now after that game that we're not looking at that game the same as what now Baylor got. That was a perfect storm of chaos of what resulted in that game, with Jackie specifically going out on the 8th play of the game, and then you had to adjust on the fly. I don't know what else you can really do at this point to change. Like I don't think it's just let's not play too high safety anymore. I don't think that's the answer to any of this. It's like that schematic change only potentially allows more explosive plays from the rest of the offense, if that's what you're truly worried about. So this discussion of the Auburn game and what's transpired since then, I think Baylor has that kind of figured out at this point in terms of schematically what they're going to do. I don't think there's anything else that they need to change. That's my opinion. If anybody was really going to do it, it was going to be Sam Levitt or potentially Avery Johnson. I don't see anybody else on the roster that's going to do it the same way that Jackson Arnold did.
So just speaking to Torian York's comments here, Baylor was very aware of Jackson Arnold's ability to run. And anyone that was not aware of his ability to run is just not doing their job. Like, that's what he's good at.
Yeah.
That's all he's really been good at in his career so far. Even with the receivers at Auburn, they still can't throw the ball at all. Like, they are not good throwing the football. So for him to say that is kind of like, yes, obviously Baylor knew. On the flip side, obviously Baylor does not have the defensive line front seven talent that A&M or Oklahoma does. They just don't.
Yeah.
And like when you watch Oklahoma and A&M in that game, they are just swarming Jackson Arnold. And it does make you kind of see how far away Baylor was in that game from being where they kind of need to be as far as being disruptive and getting into the backfield against a team like that. Pretty far away. But again, I just don't think Baylor had the personnel to really do too much. Now, we talked about when the game happened. I get what you're saying. Oh, maybe you give up more explosive plays in the pass game, but like, I don't see how you don't take that risk. And now
I'm talking about the run game. I'm talking about the run game specifically. Like they had 0 runs over 30 yards. If you start bringing safeties down in the box, the way that the Baylor was tackling in that game, I don't think that solves any issues. I think it makes them worse.
I think more times than not, it makes it better. Like you have more guys in the box containing it.
I mean, Jackson Arnold's first touchdown run of that game was against a single high safety. Like we can go through this.
But his second was against 2 high. So it's like he did anyways. So you might as well give yourself a better chance at not allowing that to happen.
But it was from the first one was from 27 yards out, not whatever the second one was out.
The second one, the last one was also from like 20 something.
Okay. They had no play. They gave up no plays over 30 yards. I'm just saying, like, if you watch that game, linebacker tackling was much more of an issue than whatever Baylor was doing in the secondary. The secondary probably saved them more often than not than from playing deeper in the secondary. You start bringing those guys up and you're immediately giving up 70-yard touchdowns. The linebackers in that game were so bad tackling, the protection for them was a deep safety. Like, that's my belief.
Yeah, I would have definitely changed some things because and now we look at it now and it's like, yeah, man, maybe you should have made Jackson Arnold throw the football more than 13 times. Like, that's insane that they made him throw the football 13.
Well, what, 13?
Like,
it was 20.
9
right?
of 13. Pretty sure it was 9 of 13 or something along those.
Maybe you might be right. You might be right.
But that's what I thought it was.
11 to 20.
But I just
11 of 17, so right in the middle.
Okay,
he was
11 of 17. Yeah, for how many yards? Like
108.
I mean, like, what are we doing here? Like, those are all dink and dunks. Like, it's nothing.
Well, he had a
substance.
shot. He had a shot early.
He had two, to
across the
Cam
field.
Coleman and to Eric Singleton. Those were the only two big plays, and they were both like 18, maybe 20.
26. They had a 26, and I don't know what the other one
Yeah,
is.
so 26 probably was the Simmons one, and then the Cam Coleman looked like it was maybe 18. So, okay. So he had 40-something yards on those two against two high safety look. Same difference as if you're in one high. Like, it's the exact same thing. And so you're giving up a couple explosives, but that's it. Like, I'm watching the way these other teams are playing, and it's like, man, Jackson Arnold can't throw the football. So we're just going to make him throw the football as best we can. And
but I think
getting away with it.
But I think you hit that though. Let's see when they don't play. Well, they have Georgia next, but let's see when they don't play Oklahoma. They don't play. I mean, I'm just saying from a defense.
No, I know the schedule is just crazy. That you just said they play Georgia next.
Yeah, I was like, well, that doesn't really count. but I'm being serious. Like, you lighten up. You go from playing Oklahoma, A&M, Georgia. They have Missouri at home. I think that's a much more favorable. Like, Missouri's good, but they're not like what they just faced in terms of front
KU
seven
put up
talent.
31 on Missouri.
Yeah. So then you have at Arkansas. That's going to be whatever you want it to be. Kentucky, whatever you want it to be. Vanderbilt's not going to have the personnel. Mercer, and then Alabama at the end of the year. Yeah. Like, we'll see about Auburn as we get through the end of this. I think they're in at Oklahoma, at A&M, and then versus Georgia. Like, that's brutal right now in terms of talent, personnel across the line of scrimmage.
They really need to win one of those games, and they also really need Georgia to find a way to beat Alabama so that they could come into this game not pissed off. Yeah, and so that's not going to happen. We'll see how it all plays out. I do think. I wish that game could have been played later in the year, but it is what it is. It was the first game of the year, and things didn't go right. But again, Baylor still has all the goals in front of them right now, currently. But I do think that this weekend is probably going to be the pivot point for a lot of this season and where it goes and where things are heading the rest of the way following the bye week. Like I mentioned, Colt and I will be back on Thursday with our preview. We will also have our best bets for the week, which, man, I need to do some work there. Need to do some deeper research. We're struggling on our best bets, or at least I am. I don't know how you did, but I think it was 500 or worse also. So
I think I was 500, and the Baylor game cost me. I was 2-1 in the other picks, but yeah, the Baylor game. I mean, they scored a touchdown late. We both feel better about that game in terms of our bets. So
yeah, that would have been nice, but didn't happen. So we'll be sure to check that out here on Sikkim 365. But that is it for today. Thanks for listening. This has been the Bearcast on Sikkim365.com.